2 years ago, I had the opportunity to visit Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson. As I explored the building, I was struck by the amount of slave labor that Jefferson employed in both building and operating his massive estate. It was strikingly ironic to think that the same man who penned the words, "All men are created equal," was also willing to hold slaves. Nearly 100 years after Jefferson wrote those famous words, the United States ratified the 15th Amendment. Section 1 reads, "The right of United States citizens to vote shall not be abridged or denied by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude." These monumental words brought America more into line with Jefferson's idea that all men are indeed created equal by giving colored men the right to vote. Today, it's imperative that we examine this clause in light of two major angles: the history of ideas behind it, as well as the effects it has had since its implementation. While there are definitely some in the time period between the Revolutionary and Civil War who believed that blacks were inherently inferior to whites, many others opposed this viewpoint on the grounds that there was no moral, ethical, or even historically legal basis for such a thing to be believed. And as a result, great leaders like Abraham Lincoln rose up to challenge the institution known to us as slavery. Lincoln once said that those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves. It was out of this kind of belief system, ladies and gentlemen, that Amendment 15 was born. In his dissent in the infamous case of Dred Scott versus Sanford, Justice Benjamin Curtis argued that giving a man the right to vote was essentially giving him citizenship. And in their attempt to bestow citizenship upon those who had formerly been slaves, the Reconstruction Congress agreed with Justice Curtis and saw that giving these people the right to vote was the perfect way to ensure their new role as citizens of our country. And as a result, they made the freedom to vote regardless of race, color, or previous condition of servitude their chief aim in the 15th Amendment. So with this brief history of ideas in mind, let us now turn our attention to the effects the 15th Amendment has had since its time of implementation. During the time period from 1865 to 1880, more African American candidates were elected to office than any other time frame in American history. And this was due in no small way to the fact that these people could now vote and run for office, and most importantly, that their doing so was protected by the Constitution. In fact, when Senator Hiram Revels of Mississippi, the first African American to serve in Congress, toured the U.S. Capitol building in 1871, he was introduced to everyone as the 15th Amendment in flesh and blood. However, the news was not all good, as mounting pressure from the southern states eventually caused President Rutherford B. Hayes to withdraw all federal troops from the area, thereby withdrawing all federal protection for black voters as well. And as a result, by the 1890s, the southern states had come to affectionately marginalize black voting power through a series of procedures including literacy tests and poll taxes. Yet, the 15th Amendment was far from finished. It would strike back in 1965 through a piece of legislation aptly named the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which ideologically mirrored what the framers of the 15th Amendment had set up so many years before. It was so successful that by 1966, only 1 year later, only 4 out of the traditional 13 southern states had fewer than 50% of African Americans registered to vote. And in the long run, dozens of African Americans were elected to office, many of whom attained high positions of power, such as in the modern case of President Obama today. Without a doubt, the power of walking the talk is clearly illustrated through the effects of the 15th Amendment. So today, by examining both the history of ideas behind as well as the effects of the 15th Amendment, we've examined the ironic roller coaster ride of ideas, actions, and beliefs that our nation has taken on this issue. And as Americans privileged with the opportunity to look back in history, we must learn from the mistakes our forefathers made so many years ago. Testing our beliefs against our actions, we must take to heart Jefferson's words in the Declaration that all men are indeed created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thank you.